Hey there, I want to do this quick video for you talking about the PPP forgiveness and how it relates to the ERTC, the Employee Retention Tax Credit. Now, if you're not interested in the Employee Retention Tax Credit, then don't worry about this video. Um, and essentially, you can go ahead and just do the PPP application however way you want. Because it's not really that important. But if you want to do both the PPP forgiveness and the ERTC, this is really important going through the numbers here. If you're not familiar with ERTC and you're not sure if you want the ERTC, basically there's one of two things that need to happen. Either number one, you have to have a reduction of revenues between 2020 or 2021 and compared to 2019 on a quarter to quarter comparison. Or there has to be some sort of government order or mandate that suspends or partially suspends your business. So if you're not sure about that, reach out to me or look for another video related to the ERTC. So let's go ahead and jump into this PPP forgiveness application. So this is the new short form. You can see this was revised January 19th. So just, a month or two ago. But this is the brand new short form. And because it's short, it's like literally like 5 or 6 questions. And it's not a short form. It's a couple pages long, but you're only answering a couple of questions. So these questions are very important when it comes to related to matching the PPP forgiveness and the ERTC. So you go ahead and I'm not going to cover the loan numbers. You know where to get through loan numbers, but what's important, and especially the disbursement date. So in employees, you guys know this, right? But this covered period is the most important part. So the covered period starts when you received your first distribution. So let's say that you received the money on May the 1st, right? So let's delete this. So say this is May the 1st, right? So on May the 1st, you received your money, and you can choose a covered period. So this covered period is important. We're going to cover this in just a minute because it's going to determine how much of the ERTC you can do. So let's go ahead and jump back to the Excel sheet and let's see how this works. So let's say that you have I don't know, let's say 3 employees, right? So you've got 3 employees. I'm just going to put here 3 employees. And for the 3 employees, you're paying them, I don't know, let's say $8,500 a month, right? So we got $8,500 a month for these guys. So essentially, we're going to choose the 8 weeks or the 24 weeks. So what we want to do is we want to look at how much we received in the PPP, right? So let's just say, for instance, that we did 2.5 times, let's just say that we've kept 3 employees on for the whole year, and we received the PPP of 21,250, right? 21,250 based on 2.5 months at $8,500, right? So when we do the application and we do the forgiveness, we have the ability to go 60% of wages, right? And then 40% of other costs. Now, why this is important is we want to look at the ERTC and maximizing the ERTC, right? So basically what we're going to want to do, let me look at this on a per employee basis, right? So what we want to do is we want to look at, what is this, B4 divided by B3 equals, yes, okay, so about $2,800 per employee, right? So the ERTC is worth $10,000, or it's actually $5,000, or $10,000 in wages, and then we get 50%. So it's $5,000. So why is this important? Well, basically what we need to do is we need to go back and say, okay, well, we need, $10,000 of wages per employee to maximize the ERTC. So in that case, to maximize the ERTC, we need to have wages back until September, as you can see right here. So if we do 2833, 2833, 2833, this gives us just a little over $11,000. So here is the important thing to notice is that the 8-week period, if we did 8 weeks, then it does not overlap. But if we do the 24-week period, it does overlap. Now, why is this important? Well, there's nothing hard and fast, black and white about not taking ERTC during the PPP forgiveness period. Very specifically, it states you cannot use the same funds both for the ERTC and the PPP forgiveness. However, it doesn't specifically state about the time period. So by having these overlapping time periods, we could run into problems if further legislation or further guidance basically says you can't take the ERTC at the same time as the PPP forgiveness, right? Now, this is very important because if we choose the 8-week period, then we don't have a problem. We don't have an overlap. However, if we choose the 24, we could have a potential overlap. Not to say that that's a problem right now, but it could be a problem in the future, right? So basically doing something now could help us in the future. So what we want to try to do is get that 8-week period. So essentially what we want to do is say, okay, the 21,250 is what we said the PPP was, right? So let's multiply that by 60%. That's going to tell us our wages. So that means that we need to do wages of 12,750, right? We need to do wages of 12,750, and then the difference. What is that, right? The difference would be minus 21,250. 8,005, right? So 8,500. Now, what is this other? Well, this is rent, utilities, supplies, that kind of stuff, right? So if you had this amount of money for rent, utility, supplies, this, right? And you had this much in wages, which we did, right? We can say the wages, 12. Let's see, hold on. So this is our total wages, right? So total wages 17. We only had to have 12. So you can see our wages were 17,000, but we had 12,000 that needed for PPP. So we're okay there, right? You can see. So here's where these questions come. The employees, the covered period, and then the amount of loan spent on payroll costs. So this is really important. You can see that the short form is kind of almost misleadingly simple because it's trying to be simple for the bulk of people. But in this case, if we want to maximize both the PPP forgiveness, and the ERTC, kind of got to be a little specific on how we do this, right? So this is really important. So what you want to do is we want to figure out what the PPP amount was, figure out if you could do 60% of wages, and then figure that out. And then if you could have a little bit extra for rent, utility, supplies, and then make sure that you maximize the ERTC. If you have not done the ERTC for 2020, it's not too late. You can still do that. You just amend the Q3 and or Q4 payroll tax returns. That's pretty simple. I can do that for you if you want help with that. But yeah, you want to make sure that you choose the 8-week covered period as long as you can meet this 60% test and get your numbers to where your wages paid were like, so if you take your total PPP and you multiply that by 60%, and then that amount of wages was paid in that 8-week period, then you're okay, right? Then you're okay to choose the 8-week. If you didn't have enough wages and you want to go ahead and revert to the 24 weeks, just knowing that it could overlap. Now, if you had more wages, right? And assuming that you got your payment, your PPP first payment on like May the 1st, right? So assuming that you had enough payroll here, right, to get the ERTC of $10,000, then don't worry about it, right? Then it's a moot point. But in this situation, what we want to do is we want to say, look at these, and then this is the per employee. So I'm going to put right here per employee. So per employee, they were making $2,800 a month. So then between the 3 employees, that's 85. So you can see for each one, we actually had to pay, what is this, 4 months to get them up to the $10,000 in wages to qualify for the maximum ERTC. So I hope that makes sense. Like I said, this form is kind of deviously, misleadingly simple. All of these questions are very simple, but your covered period, you want to make sure that you're either choosing an 8-week period or a 24-week period. The better one to do is the 8 weeks, but make sure that you have enough wages. Like I said, your your PPP, a total amount, multiply that by 60%. And if you have that in wages that was paid out in the 8-week period, then you're okay, right? Then you're okay. And then you just put this amount, the amount covered, the amount that you paid in payroll costs that you want to use. And the 60% is the minimum. So it can be more than that. So if you want to go more and then reduce on the other costs. So if you didn't have that much rent, utility, supplies, whatever during that 8-week period, you can go heavier on the wages and less on the rent supplies. That's okay. The 60% of wages is the minimum, right? So make sure that the amounts of loan spent on payroll costs is at least 60% of your PPP amounts, right? So if you got PPP for $20,000, make sure that the payroll reported, if you're doing an 8-week period, is no less than 12,000. This could be the same for 24-week, but you want to make sure that you have at least 12,000 paid in this period, in this time of 8 weeks. Okay, hopefully that makes sense, and I didn't go overboard too much on it. And let me know if you have any questions. Bye.